Hi folks, welcome to the shop. Today I want to talk a little bit about my experience buying a Milwaukee Fuel 6.5-inch saw that I've had recently. Now I bought this saw because I was trying to get a promotion in the winter, qualify for promotion to get a discount. So I ended up buying 3 Milwaukee tools. This was one of them. So, you know, I already had the Milwaukee 7.25-inch saw here in the back here that I got in a clearance. So trying to get the promotion, I picked out the saw and bought it. Now, I bought 3 of these saws total. This is the second one that I've got. And the first saw, I couldn't get the blade square on the saw. It was not square out of the box and I couldn't get it square. And I'll explain why in a moment. Now on saw number 2, this saw, I was able to get it square. It was square out of the box, and a lot of times on these saws, when you adjust off of the 90-degree angle and come back to it, you might have to adjust the set screw because it might be a little bit off. That's all I did on this one, super minor. So this saw was in pretty good shape. Everything on the shoe above this saw was in great condition, but there's just some minor things that I'll point out since we're having this discussion today. But if you look here, you'll see there's some metal shaving right here, like the finish. This is a gray sort of finish they put on these magnesium shoes, and you can see it's sort of been cut away on the machine. It's the only saw that's had that out of the 3 I've had right here. It's sort of a dig in the finish. Trying to get that to be so you can see it. Yeah, right there. And the other thing I noticed with the saw was there was some paint, some humps in the paint here in the finish where it's just sort of lumpy or bumpy, you know, not what I expected from, you know, brand new saw that's been purchased. This side finish looked pretty good, as you would expect, nice smooth finish, you know, a little bit bumpy here. Other than that, other than some orange peel here, these are like 3 minor things I noticed with this shoe. Some orange peel here in the paint finish. You can see it right here. If we can get it to show there. Yeah, a little bit of orange peel here. Again, not the end of the world. Functionally, the saw was great. I was just happy I was able to get it square. But then I thought, hey, you know, perhaps I can order another one. You know, maybe it'll come and it'll be in better condition and it won't have, you know, I'll be able to get it and it'll have everything in better condition. It'll come new and like new condition. That's kind of what I expect when I buy these tools. So this saw came in and had the same problem the first saw had. So I figured I would go ahead and show you guys what I discovered. So when I got the saw, because it was the third one, I put a blade on and checked to see if it was square right from the get-go. And I saw it wasn't quite square, okay? I took the saw, took it off of that set 90 degrees, took it to 45, brought it back, right? Set it in position, tighten up the set screw for the bevel, set it down. You can see the shoe sits perfectly flat. But then when you look at the shoe, and one thing I'll explain here is that these shoes have 2 pieces of flange on them. I'll explain a little bit how this works real quickly. There's a set screw here, okay, on the shoe of the saw. The idea of this screw is you spin it in, or spin it and so that it goes this way or down, up or down, right? And the idea is that right here, there's a piece of flange here, and there's a piece of flange in the back that come in contact with the shoe. The flange is supposed to stop the shoe, right? In the back, typically it sets a little bit higher than this part of the shoe. So the idea is that when you lower and put this back 90 degrees, that this shoe will land on this set screw down here where you've put it, and you've ensured it's at 90 degrees. So the idea is you slip it back, right? You get it set back to the 90-degree mark, tighten it up, and you should be all set. But if you look at this, might be a little challenging to illustrate. Get right in there. If you look real close, you'll see in here that set screw is not hitting the flange. And you might say, well, why isn't it hitting the flange? That's because the flange back here in the back is hitting the shoe first. Okay, now, if I were to loosen this up, probably human nature to do this, I could put some force onto this, spring it up. Most people are probably going to take this and set it down on the shoe, which I'm going to do right here. Put it at the edge of the table, put a little bit of force on it, put the blade off the table so I can muscle down, just make sure it kind of spring it down, make sure it hits the set screw. Let's look and see if we've gotten that gap closed. If I can illustrate it there. Yeah, kind of hard to show, but yeah, that gap is pretty much gone. So the gap is gone, but if we set the saw down, keep the shoe up, you'll notice the saw wobbles a little bit. Okay, just a little bit, kind of hard to show, hard to illustrate. Why is it hard to illustrate? Because I haven't adjusted that set screw yet. The set screw needs to be adjusted even more, okay? But what's happening is it's putting a bind on this shoe, okay? Because this back flange here is hitting, okay, before the set screw here can hit this front flange, it's putting a bind on the shoe. If you can imagine, it's twisting the shoe a little bit, and that's why it can't get back into square. Took me a little while to figure it out on the first saw, and the only way, and like I said, this screw needs to be backed off a little bit more, which means it'll create even more of a gap here and more flex on this shoe. So when you're done, if I were to adjust this set screw and put it at 90 degrees, and you set it down, it would really rock at that point. Really wouldn't be flat because you'd have even more of a bind on the shoe of the saw itself. Okay, now this is how it operated right out of the box, and I've had two of the saws like this. The first saw and this saw with this flange not, hitting before the set screw could even hit up front. Consequently, saw number 2 here that I got, I didn't have that problem. Okay, this saw, I was able to adjust it. Flange was where you would expect it here in the back. Never had the problem. It was, 90 degrees out of the box. I might have tried to dial it in a little bit more, but piece of cake. It's exactly what you'd expect in terms of how the shoe behaved on this saw. Now, if we look at one other thing I want to show on this saw real quick, again, saw number 3, it's interesting how they vary so much. If I push this rafter hook up, start pushing it, it is hard to push. I'm just pushing slowly, right? It's like it's binding. Keep pushing, and it pops loose, and then it goes. It's the same way when you want to bring it back down. So it's as if it's, binding over here where this roll pin is in here, and it goes back. Now, what I found is when you're messing with this, if you actually go fast with it, it works all right. But you got to, put a snap, a lot of force on it with snap. It'll go. But again, that's not at all the way this saw behaves. Again, out of the box. This thing, push it slow, it's right up, no problem. Easy all the way up, all the way down. This older saw that I've got, this non-fuel version saw that I have, same thing on this guy. The rafter hook moves freely, no problems whatsoever. And by the way, this was a 7¼ inch non-fuel saw that I bought on clearance. And you figure this thing probably floated around the store. It came with a drill, an impact, and 2 batteries and a charger. And this thing came in near perfect condition, right? The blade was perfectly square from the get-go. If not, I've slightly adjusted it. There was no problem ensuring it was square. If you look at that flange in the back, there's a gap, right? Look at the flange there in the back. See that? Right here. There is a gap there in the back. As what I would say as expected, because I think the flange is just there in case it needs to catch the shoe, right? Anyway, non-fuel version of the saw, like somewhat lower end version of the saw, perfect condition, on clearance, in the bag, probably floated around the store. Day 1, came home, and it was fine, right? Not one thing I could point out this saw, the 7¼ inch saw that was an issue. So, a little surprised. Like I said, I don't know if it's supply chain related. Not sure what's going on with that, where this saw would have this flange in the wrong location in the back, and just with the general sort of, I think some of the challenges they're having with getting the finish correct on these magnesium shoes. It's coming in all kinds of states. I mean, one thing on this saw, again, this is out of the box new. Look here, scratched here on the back of the shoe. Again, is that major? No, when you go cut, it's not. But who wants to take a saw out of the box and already have a scratch in the finish on the shoe before you've even gone to use the saw, right? I'm trying to get this in focus. Yeah, see that? Out of the box like that. Not something that I did. So anyway, just want to talk about that experience briefly. Kind of unique. I've had it happen with 1 or 2 other tools, something along those lines, where they seem to be, a company, not just necessarily Milwaukee, but a company will be sort of challenged to get something out the door in good finished condition. But with that said, if you haven't subscribed, I'd ask you to consider subscribing and joining us. And please like and comment, and we'll catch you on the next video.